It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. You got to imagine me doing jazz hands. Hello, everyone. It is Feedback Friday from a very productive week. It was an exceptionally busy week for me. So I'm happy that everybody was like cool and awesome. Well, not everybody. There was still some trolls, but everybody that matters. We'll go with that. And I want to say right off the bat, thanks for the people that bothered to respond with a lot of thought to the video yesterday, the video about YouTube cruelty, internet cruelty. People really took time to think and lay out responses and like posted mini essays, and it was very humbling. It was really cool that people took the time and people, put in thought and really tried to give interesting answers. I thought that was really cool. And, some people didn't feel comfortable posting on YouTube. So they posted on Facebook, and some people posted on Twitter, like in direct messages and things like that. But people really thought about it. It's sort of my takeaway from the whole thing is that internet cruelty comes in many forms. And it seems people are sort of divided into people who think that it's sort of it can sometimes be almost a temporary mass hysteria and society is to blame. And some people believe that, no, there are just evil people in the world beyond, sociopaths. Take them out of the equation. There are just evil people in the world, and evil people do evil things and they like it. But the fact that there's more than one type of cruelty that people were actually able to identify, I found very interesting. And I think I'm going to do these questions to the audience again, because it's really interesting to see what you guys have to say and really see the intellect and the depth of thought in the people that watch my content. It's, like I said, it's very, very humbling. And, quite a few people said that cruelty comes from weakness, that if you have a good sense of self, then you don't feel the need to be cruel to others. They talked about power dynamics. They talked about, a few people mentioned 4chan culture, going off of 4chan. It sounds like it's very, very complex, but the thing I found interesting is that a few people mentioned that some people don't think that they're actually doing any harm. And they think it's sort of a harmless activity because they don't take anything on the internet all that seriously, so they don't think anybody else will take things seriously on the internet. I think that's true in some cases, but some of the viciousness, I think, like I said, there's multiple types. People talked about the culture wars and the fact that we have these clashing ideologies that are making everything just meaner for everybody. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think the current polarization is really leading to deep, deep divisions. And certainly a lot of the real nastiness I get is directly linked to the culture war that neither side can stand me. It's funny. I did a talk at Sheridan College today. The name of the talk was Accidental Sexism in Game Design. And no, I won't share it. This is what people pay me to talk about. And so I can't divulge all my secrets on the U of Tubes, because then people don't pay me to come and do their talk. But when I was introduced by the professor, who's somebody I've known, through comic books for quite a long time, I didn't even know he taught game design. But he introduced me as a person who's managed to piss off both sides of the extremes of the culture war, so I must be doing something right. And the students were quite engaged. I looked around the room at the types of computers that everybody has. Nobody takes handwritten notes anymore. It's all computers, right? And in the sea of Macs, I saw some like Asus and Lenovo gaming machines. There was a sort of cluster of guys in the back with these machines. And I'm like, at the beginning, I said, "You're the gamers. You're my people." And at the end, one of the guys was so excited by the talk and the section on color theory that he came running down and he flipped his screen around. And on the screen was I believe his character's name is the King from Katamari Damacy. And he was so excited that his favorite game, because it's his favorite game, it's the game that made him want to make games, fit my color theories about using gender inclusive colors. And he was so excited. And it's like, this is gaming. This is gaming to me, this excitement, this sharing. And then I said, "Oh, you've got the brushed aluminum finish on his machine." I said, "Mine's rubberized, feel it." And there was a student from the economics wing, because this course was kind of a catch-all. And I said, "This is the point where we hit the I touched yours, now you can touch mine moment. We're gamers." And I'm not sure she quite got the joke, but the gamer laughed. And these are sort of these moments. And of course, during question period, because I love question periods, I love people asking me questions. It means I have to prepare less, and it challenges me. It makes me learn. But every time I do one of these talks on gaming, the questions are always, what did you think about this game? What did you think about that game? And Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain came up. I got the Quiet question because I said that it was my game of the year last year. So we got to talk about Quiet. And somebody asked me what I thought of the Persona games, a specific element of the Persona games. And I said, the Persona games, you cannot separate one element from the Persona games from the rest of the Persona games. So, and it was things like that. Somebody asked me about PT, and I couldn't hear him at first. I thought he was saying ET because I talked about the Atari crash. And it was just I felt so bad for the guy. And it was just, it's one of those things where my hearing is not bad enough to cause me difficulties most of the time, but that is one of the settings where my, hearing impairment, for lack of a better term, really gets in my way. When it's a room with a lot of room noise and I'm trying to hear someone and they're not close enough for me to see their lips, I have a really hard time making out what they're saying. So it was a little embarrassing, but that happens. But it was cool. It was cool to go in and do a face-to-face talk with people I could actually see. And it really made me appreciate how cool the vast majority of, the long-term commenters are, the people who interact on in my contact on a regular basis. And you guys knew there was a 3-4 week period that got really rough, starting before Christmas and continuing to, I guess it was last week. But it seems like a lot of the creepy trolls think I'm the devil, and instead of, yelling at the devil, they've left. And that's good, I think. I'd rather have that than this constant stupid war of words. And I tell you, it's tough not to talk about some of the stuff that's been going on. I've touched on it, but it's hard. But you guys helped me realize why I've sort of been so angry and kind of fixated on particular instances of it. You guys helped me with this question and cruelty and the comments about, power and weakness and all that stuff. And it made me realize that I was blaming myself for my family getting dragged in. And because I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the idea, say what you want about me, think I'm horrible, leave my family out of it. They don't choose to do this. They don't choose to associate with this stuff. They can't be held responsible for what I do or what I say. But people drag them in, photos and all. A certain website stole photos, refused to take them down, even after the site owner they took them from informed them that they did not have permission to use the photos. They're arguing fair use. And they really are hiding behind the fact that they're too small to really make it worth suing them. And I've been thinking about, would I sue if they had money? I'm torn. Emotionally, I absolutely would, just to get those photos down. That's really the only thing I care about. Because, talking about my mother in theory and talking about my mother with photos are very different things. And I don't think people can really expect to be rational when someone goes after their mother. Especially with, my situation being raised for the bulk of my life by a single parent. That you want to unleash the beast. If you want to unleash the mean streak I have, go there. And it's been a real exercise having to hold that back, to not go where I know I can go, and that's sort of a conscious choice. And on the one hand, you can say, well, congratulations, you're a better person than they are. It's not so rewarding when you think about it. I mean, the short term, it would feel really good to just stoop to that level, and I know in the long term it would not be what people have come to expect from me. It would not do me any good. It would damage me. But from a less a less selfish level, I know I would regret it. Maybe that's more selfish. From a less calculated level, how's that? I know I would regret it. I know it wouldn't make me feel good. And that's sort of the thing I don't understand about these people, except the people, like, you guys help me remove some people, like that portion of people who don't know they're causing any harm. That makes complete sense to me. Absolute sense. Yeah, they don't know they're doing anything wrong. I get that. The mob mentality stuff, that people do things when whipped up on the internet that they wouldn't do on their own, that makes sense to me as well. So thank you for that feedback. There's still that leftover, and I realize that I'm just not going to understand what drives those people. I think it's almost like there are different animals within the human species. My inner furry is coming out here. But, there's different animals within the human species, and some of us have a strength of character and a strength of will that we can go, this is my opinion, and, you don't have to agree, but that doesn't make you bad. And then other people are like, we don't feel the same way about a given subject, so you are, insert hyperbole here. You are anti-free speech. You are misogynist. You condone harassment, all these things. And I think that these people are not sort of factoring in that, hey, somebody may just not be informed. Somebody may not know, or somebody may be coming at this from a different perspective. And that's the cool thing about the internet, is we get to talk to people from all around the world and see different experiences and different approaches to things. And it's been really interesting talking to people who live in Europe right now because of sort of the high level of emotion coming out of that region right now. But it's also sort of, interesting to talk to people even from the US, which is a radically different country than Canada. And I've had a few people ask me about that thing in Alberta where you're not supposed to identify parental gender in schools. For those of you who asked, or those of you who weren't sure, that is a best practices guidelines document. They are done all the time. They are ignored all the time. They are not necessarily something that is going to be adopted. It may not be something that is feasible to adopt. They're policies. And I really can't see schools that have no transgender students changing everything for, an imaginary student that may be in their school someday. It's just, I think they go overboard so that people meet them halfway. And I can see how, without the context of understanding, these things get ignored all the time or only half implemented, that it would seem like, what are they doing? But I've done best practices documents myself on cyberbullying, and you're lucky if 10% of your recommendations get implemented. So there's a bit of feedback. What else do I have to cover this week? There was so much. I mean, the Ollie Barter interview is very well received. I'm very grateful for his time. That was a great interview. Doing it felt really good. He's a super cool guy. It broke down into toy nerding, which is awesome. But what a wealth of information. Like, it's so humbling when a developer is willing to give you the benefit of their knowledge and their experience. And it's just so amazing. I wish more developers would talk, and I know I'm not alone. Like, this was one of the things that when we set out to do dialogue options, we wanted was developer input to try to get that dialogue going, how the press works the way it does, how development works, why things happen a certain way, you know, get those questions answered. And so it's very, very cool that this is starting to happen. And hopefully this is, you know, just the beginning of the people who are willing to open up and talk. Because this is what happens on these series. You have to show you can do it, right? You have to show that, you know, you're not a flash in the pan, you're serious, you're you know, you're somebody that people can trust. And you know, it's really cool. It's building, and I'd be happy. So I'm gonna wrap there on happy, because happy's a good way to go into the weekend. And next week promises to be really super cool as well. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for your thoughtful responses. I will remember this, and I will think up more questions to ask you. Have a great weekend.